Welcome back to another race. I lost my original audio for this, or at least for the first few moments, so I'm just gonna hopefully make up what I had originally planned to say at the beginning of this race. But it is Zwift Get Rolling, I believe, stage 4. Can't remember which stage. But anyways, we're on RGV, so this is a route in France. And cool thing about this race is we have a friend that lives a few hours away from us that saw Steven and I were racing and was like, I need to join that race. So my friend Dave is out here. He does great. He stays with the pack all the way to the finish and has a great race. This is a really hard race. We have so many people in this race, and it's a lot of flat, and it's just a little bit too much flat and some of these cobbles for me to sit super comfortably in the pack, but it goes well. I have a fun race. It's so fun to race with Dave and just be able to cheer each other on. So thanks for coming. You'll be able to see another sprint finish in a further backpack, but that's okay. And hopefully, I'll give a few good tips and things that I notice and see throughout the race. This wasn't one of the worst starts in the world. It actually really wasn't that terrible, but later on we're going to go through another sprint banner that gets close to the one short climb in this race, and it's awful. Everyone's just pushing the pace really hard. So far, so good here. Looks like nothing terribly exciting is happening other than we're moving relatively fast at this point. Normally these starts are pretty much this fast. We've got a group of, there's what, 56 of us, so it's not the biggest that I've been doing. If you've seen some of my videos recently, there's usually 75 to 120 people somewhere in there, so this is kind of a nicer size field, but this course being the way it is, it's a little bit easier to sit in for the majority of categories. Not always, but it's a little bit easier to sit in. But you're going to definitely see some fireworks in different sections of this course. But yes, as you can see, very flat so far. We've just made it through one banner. None of these segments, of course, count for this race, but gone through a banner, received a feather power up. I'm trying to think. I think we may go through one more banner before the aqueduct, so it'll be interesting to see. Trying to remember if I save the feather for the climb or I go ahead and use it, just knowing that it'll be worth it to have any power up. Whatever power up they give me will be helpful for the aqueduct. One thing that has really helped being in this size field for especially the men's races is just the sheer speed that they've been having. ZRL has been really hard this season. There are some incredibly strong, fast people, and they just kind of sit and drive the pace. Not my favorite thing in the world, but trying to stay in as long as I can. So this is just giving me really good practice to see how long I can stay. Obviously, we always hope to stay into the end and not get dropped, but sometimes things happen and there's fast fields, and especially with this series, it's technically a GC. So over the different stages, people race all the time, and the fastest person through the race gets the best score. So with these races going on all week, people are trying all the time to get as fast as they can throughout the course. So if there's a big field, it's good for people to try and just push the pace and get the highest speed. I don't really care about this GC. That's not my top priority. So I'm just in it to try and get some good racing, good race quality, stick into the finish. So those have been my goals. But the reason a lot of these are so fast is because other people have goals of trying to have the best GC over the 4 or however many stages per month that we have of these races. So a lot of times this is why people will just go as fast as they can on the front and really push the pace. Alright, as you can see, my pace is already quite high. I haven't hit green numbers that much in a while, and people are already pushing off the front. So they're really moving this pace. They're trying to either split the field or just make the field go as fast as we possibly can. And I'm just hanging on. I know my friend Dave is still in there, which is great. I know he manages to stay in the group really well for the entire race. So that's really awesome. He had a really good time out. But just trying to find those wheels, using my steering to the best of my ability. This course definitely had some fun steering aspects to it, especially at the end, the intestines. That'll be really fun to see how the steering plays out there. Most of this section is relatively straightforward, and what I'm using the steering for is kind of pushing myself over to make sure I always have a draft. I did the ZRL race yesterday, and it was really hard not having steering after being used to it so much. I felt like I was getting pushed to the side, and I would want to be in the draft, wondering, why am I not in that draft? And having to, play around with whatever Zwift gave me was definitely different after getting used to the steering. So just having both, I think, is really good experience. Honestly, being able to practice steering and not steering is still a great thing to have, and you get skills both ways. You can see that someone is totally off the front and just doing their own thing. So this pace is just really high. I mean, look at all the red and yellow that I'm having to do just to simply sit in this field. I do feel like I did a lot better this race of sitting around the 3rd to 4th row. I've been discovering with this new pack dynamics, if you're in that 3rd to 4th row, it's huge. It makes a huge difference of being able to draft well and not just keep getting spit out the back. I did a few races where I felt like I was in the wheels, but it was so much harder because I was in the wheels in the back. There was nobody behind me. But being right where I am right now, yeah, look, you can see I go down to blue for just a little bit. Now, okay, we're going to go up a climb, so it's going to go up just a little bit. But as soon as it flattens out, I'm in this really good spot, and I'm going to be able to back off a little bit and just stay. Even if I do have to work the same amount, I'm not going to lose any ground. So I'm staying in this section really well, very helpful. So hint for racing, be up there. Don't be on the front because you don't want to be out of the draft, but be up as far as you can because it will save you energy. I have been testing this, and I'm pretty sure this is going to really help. We just passed a sign for something called a Zwift portal. These are pretty new. There's another sign for it. These are new features that Zwift put in with the women's Tour de France. And you can see off to the right, there's like this little round portal. It's a round portal that'll take you to a climb that they created that's supposed to imitate a lot of the climbs that were a part of the Tour de France Femmes. So that's something that I haven't done yet because I don't like climbing that much. But I should definitely check them out at some point, especially not during a race. But at some point, I will go try one of these portals. I've heard really good things about them and the colors, and it's very different from Zwift in that like it's not a world with normal trees or roads. It looks different. It's more like a video game type look, and it's good for workouts, things like that. So if you haven't done it yet, check it out because hopefully I will do that soon as well. Alright, so I have dropped my featherweight. I think I dropped it maybe a little bit early. I remember now, I was looking for a slight rise. That would be good to use it because we are going to go through one more sprint banner before the aqueduct. So I do decide to use it. Honestly, there's not really that many great places to use it here. There are like very slight 2 to 3%, but they don't last for very long. So I used it and it definitely was helpful. It wasn't the most helpful it could be because it was mostly 0%. But it still made me lighter and would help me in the draft for a few seconds there. Alright, so we'll be coming up on, I believe, the Balan sprint. It could be the Pave sprint, actually. I'm not remembering which one it is, so we will see when it comes up. See, here's where I should have dropped the feather. I dropped it a little bit early, but that's okay. As you can see, it's going to go right back down again. I'm still doing a really nice job sitting in the upper half. I remember now, I can see where we are on the mini-map. We are definitely going to go through the Pave sprint, and that's where life gets really hard. It gets really hard when we go through the Pave sprint, so that'll be coming up in just a little bit. So still lots of long, flat sections here. But I'm quite pleased with how I'm sitting in this group. I'm working hard-ish, but I'm working well, meaning all the hard work is being put in a good place and I'm not wasting the hard work. So yeah, there's only like 4 to 5 rows in front of me instead of 10 to 15. Obviously it ebbs and flows with the movement of everyone else's avatar, but the majority of the time I'm really staying, as I move up a little bit more again, I'm definitely staying in this front pack. And you can just see that it's a nice big blob. I'm getting draft from all sides. Still looking really good. Alright, yes, there we go. The Pave Sprint information table has popped up on the left. We're going to come into a town, so it's an area with some cobbles. It's not out here in the countryside. We're going to actually go through a little tunnel, and you'll be able to see some buildings. So once you see the town, you know it's approaching. I believe the dots are right as you come inside. So if I were going for segments, I'd be really looking for when this starts. But in this race, I'm just going to stick to it. And now I remember, people started really pushing the pace right here. We're at a 1%, so there's not really anything, 2%, there's not that much in this section. It's still flat until the aqueduct, but people really started moving, hammering on the front. You can see two people have really hardcore attacked. I don't know if you can see further up ahead. I think as we come down this hill, this little bump, you'll be able to see them. Yeah, there you go. You can see those two in front of us, and they're on the move. So we are chasing. If I were able to control this and talk to all these people, I would have said, let them dangle for a little while because the aqueduct is coming. That's a really good place to just catch people. But no, everyone wants to just go chase them down right now. You can see people panicking and surging to the front. Maybe they want to be a part of the move. But I just remember this being incredibly hard. And as we reach this Pave Sprint, I've decided, okay, I'm going to try and stick with this group for 20 minutes. So I have 3 minutes left. 3 minutes to hold on to this group and try and stay alive and use this draft. And I do well at that. I make it to the aqueduct, and then I just don't have anything left. So let's see how it plays out. We're still ripping it. I mean, look at my numbers. They've gone to yellow, like a nice big block of yellow, 2 red spikes just to sit in this group. We're going through this banner, so we're all going to pick up a power-up. So a lot of people have dropped power-ups, seeing that they're about to get one. They're like, hey, let's get a new one. So that also increased the speed. I saw some arrows. I see drafts currently. So that's just allowing people to either relax a little bit, or if they're pushing, it's going to be hard to stay with them because they have an extra benefit. Alright, so we're flying through this section. Look how strung out it is. If you look at the little mini map, there's a long line of riders, and I am definitely not feeling my most comfortable. So I'm hanging on to this tail. Like I said, this is not the place to be. I'm getting a little tiny draft, but not nearly as much draft as I was getting in the front. So I know I'm in a danger zone. So I need to move up if I have anything left. And I do. It sits up finally. You can see it kind of start to spread out just a little bit. Sits up just a little bit for me to really grab onto the thicker end of this tail, and I move up a little bit. But I do know that the aqueduct is coming pretty soon. I know it's really soon after this sprint banner. So off the back, you can see we have lost some people. There's a few people 5, 7 seconds back. They're not pushing very big numbers, so they are probably done at this point. Someone a second back is doing almost 5 watts per kilogram, so they are really trying to stay in this. And here we go. We're approaching the base of the aqueduct, so now we're at 5%. People are dropping their feathers. I dropped my feather, and I need to stay with this group. I wish I would have been able to save the feather for further up on the climb. We haven't even hit the dots yet, but I needed to use it now to help me stay with this group, because I'm going to try as hard as I can to stay with it. And this is my last ditch effort. I stand up and look how many people I pass. I go from like 40th place to 18th place, 15th place. And I just try to keep going as hard as I can, but I know here you see a lot of people are now dropping their feathers, because this is the ideal time to drop your featherweight power up, and I just don't have one more punch in me. So I say goodbye to the front group, and I I do my best. Yeah, I got a little bit more, but you can see it's gonna start to split right in front of me too. So people aren't holding on to the wheels in front of them like I'm not holding on to the wheels in front of me. And oh, there's my friend Dave, D Hagedorn. So you can see Dave has made the back of this group, and he's gonna try and catch on. You can see 1 to 2 seconds in front of us. Those are the gaps that have been created by this strung out section. I grab a wheel. I'm ready to try and sit on this wheel, and I wish we would have pushed to grab this group. I didn't make the move soon enough because we're about to hit this downhill, and if we had stood up right in that moment, I think we would have caught, but now you can see they're already further. So I'm going to stick here, and I guess I'm hoping that we're going to catch on, but we never do. That's it. This is our group, and this is the group that's going to remain at the end of the race. I think we will catch a few people that get dropped from this group, but we will never actually catch the main body of this group, which is sad, but that's how it is, and that's okay. And I'm pretty sure I actually end up position-wise somewhere around this number, somewhere around 25th. We'll see at the end. But I'm in this pack and very much enjoying letting my heart rate come down just a little bit. Alright, so we have a nice group. Let's see. About 8 of us in this group. And wow, you can already see that group got 11 seconds in front of us. That was just the difference in speed. I think the group just in front of us was a little bit closer to the front group than we were to them. And they were a little bit more organized more quickly. They were a little bit more of a blob at the approach of the downhill than we were. We were still a little bit strung out. People were still catching on to this group. We were still catching a straggler in front of our group. And that was it. I think I wonder if they had a little bit more draft from the front group, because as you can see in the little mini map, they have caught everyone in the front. So we are now the second group on the road. There are no longer 3 groups. That group caught, so they must have had some good draft pulling them in back to the front section. Also, probably the people who were in the front group really punched the aqueduct and then sat up a little bit more, and then that made group number 2 chase really hard because they didn't punch as hard, but they were still chasing, and we just got left behind. So yeah, that is it. 13 seconds. Not coming back because it's really flat until until the intestines section, which is about 1.5 miles from now. So in about 1.5 miles to 2 miles, we will reach that section, and you'll be able to see how the elevation changes a little bit. But we're both groups that are, well, we're a smaller group, so they're going to be faster than us, the group in the front. While we're chasing, and we just don't have enough bodies to really chase at a speed that's going to allow us to catch. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and speed up the video just because, like I said, it's flat. We're with this group of people for quite a while, so there's not really any need to have commentary for that long, and I'll just go ahead and speed up the video so we can see what plays out live, but not way too long. Alright, there's a few people that really try to move the front. I could see that we maintained 10 to 11 seconds with the group in front of us for a while, but now it's really gone out further. Oh yes, and now in the comments, that
we will start a series of comments of people off the back. I'm not sure how far they are, but I'm pretty sure I saw at the end of the race that they are quite a bit further back, trying to get some kind of pace line together, and we're going to have some little chatter about who's pulling who and who's not working, but, you know, that always happens in a race. And yeah, you can see these two are really trying to push the pace, and I'm using the draft currently, and we're about to get another power up. This is the Balon sprint. This was the sprint that I was thinking of earlier. So going through Balon, I've got a draft. That's nice. That'll be good to use at the end of the intestines section, coming near the finish, to just get a little bit of a break before the final sprint, because that's always helpful for me. But as you can see by these avatars, these guys are definitely a little bit bigger than me, so they're really pushing these numbers. This is the time where I would come to the front, but my FTP is a lot smaller than theirs, and so they're really able to do a lot of work on the front and maintain the speed. And if they want to keep that speed, I am not that person to help them out. So they're pushing the front, and I think I remember coming through on some of the uphills and trying to just at least maintain the speed so that we don't lose any speed. I don't back off when we come up the hills, but I will back off when we come down some of the shorter inclines. Alright, we're getting close to the finish now. We should be able to see the intestines in the mini map in just a little bit. I'm trying to remember exactly when they start. Maybe it's a little bit closer to the finish, maybe 2 miles to go. You can see them. Oh, there we go. Off to the left in the little mini map. We're going to make that left turn, and you can see all the squiggles of the road begin. And that will be where we know the end is near, but we still have kind of a hard section to get through before then. Still staying in this main pack. I don't believe we drop anyone until we at least get into the intestines section. So sticking as one group. Got a few people just kind of fly to the front and then back off and then fly to the front. And I just really like staying in the wheel, so I'm just going to kind of stay in the middle as best as I can. Alright, here we go. We have got some ups and downs going. Lots of cornering. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and slow it down now. Alright, so I've gone ahead and slowed this down so that we can kind of see. I really wanted to just look at the steering and see how it looks after the race, and going back and looking at this section and seeing what the steering's like with all these kind of twisty corners. There's lots of right, left, just back and forth, kind of like a switchback, but not a very steep switchback. I mean, it definitely has some rolls, but there's not like a main descent switchback. So I'm trying to learn how to cut corners while also not really losing a ton of draft. You can cut a corner and gain a few spots, but then if you're not in the draft, you might just lose that spot again. So that was a pretty good one, that left corner. So I'm trying to kind of just find the balance and see where all the other avatars are going. So this one right here, I'm going to kind of cut and go out of the draft a little bit, but then if I can just pop right back in, yeah, that one actually worked quite well. That one was pretty good. Alright, so we're coming out of the last few of these turns inside the intestine section, so we'll be coming to the final sprint. Looks like we've got just over a mile to go, just a little
little bit further. Hanging on with these guys as best as I can, practicing steering. Looks like some of these guys are kind of big, so I'll just have to make sure I stick on the wheel and then just be ready for the sprint. You can see my friend Dave Hagedorn up there a few times. I've seen his name. I don't see it currently, but just a moment ago I saw his name pop up, so he's still up there with the front group. We definitely are not catching anyone in the front. They're probably getting close to where it flattens out, outside of the intestines section. Still practicing some cornering. Seems a little early to maybe drop, or maybe late to drop the feather. We still got one more 4%. So maybe he is using it at a good time here near the very end of the squiggles with some. This was kind of a longer section of up, so maybe that was well done. I don't know. Maybe I would have saved it for the sprint. Probably depends on how big the field was. I have a drafting power up, so I'm definitely going to use this right around point two, maybe? That would be my guess, because it's going to be pretty flat for, as soon as it hits the flat, it's going to be flat until we get to the finish, all the way through. So I'm going to want to have it beforehand, because I like to sprint pretty early. Well, I like to sprint when I see someone react, but if no one's going, and I think it's too late, then it's time to go, and I don't want to be on the front when I still have my drafting bonus. So this guy's already dropped his. This to me seems a little bit early, but maybe he's trying to chase down this guy specifically and not have to work too much. Alright, so here I go. I'm dropped mine because we're going to come around this right corner. So right now I don't want to go in front because I'm using my power up. I'm getting quite a bit of help with this extra drafting boost. But aha, I see this guy on the left go. I know it's time to go. I'm going to follow that wheel. He's also used his draft bonus. Probably a little bit too late. And then I come through, and yay! We take the sprint. I had some pretty good watts for that finish, with having a smaller group, having to really push sometimes to stay in. But looks pretty good for the sprint. Still staying strong at 700 watts at the very end. So, yay! I made it. Hoping I can do a few more of these races to keep prepping for cyclocross as well as ZRL on Zwift and having more practice. Thanks, Dave, again for coming to join Stephen and I on our racing. See you guys next time.